All right, diving in today, folks. We're tackling Bobby Fischer's My 60 Memorable Games.
Memorable games, yeah.
And, you hear that title, you might think, okay, chess, got to be a grandmaster to care, right?
Right. Yeah, probably.
But it's really not just about the moves. It's like what makes a game stick in your head when you're at that level, that's so memorable.
Exactly. This is Fischer's own take on these games, right? From like 57 to 67, a whole decade. And not just any games, these are mostly serious tournament matches under pressure.
So it's like we're getting this inside view, like what did he find important enough to analyze and share, right?
Right.
Why do these games matter to him, and what can we learn from them?
Exactly. And he even says right up front in the preface, candid and precise is what he's going for. He wants us to get it, to really understand and play better too. So it's not just a look what I did kind of book.
Right. From the get-go, it's like he's setting up a challenge for us,
Yeah.
to really think about chess, not just watch the pieces move.
Absolutely. And he says all 60 games were memorable, exciting, even the 3 losses he included. What do you make of that? Losing, and it's still memorable.
Yeah, good point. You'd think for someone like Fischer, losing wouldn't be a happy memory.
But maybe it shows how he learned, like a loss isn't just, oh, I messed up. It's information, right? It reveals weaknesses, things to work on. To include those losses, that's a kind of honesty, right? A dedication to mastery, no matter what. Maybe that's what makes it memorable for him, the learning process, win or lose.
Interesting. He also mentions this earlier book he did, Bobby Fischer's Games of Chess from 59, 34 games there. So it's like this is part of the larger journey.
Totally. It's not just these isolated moments of brilliance, right? It's about constantly getting better. He revisited that older work, then gives us this collection, like here's where I've come from and here's how I've grown.
Right. And it's like a scientist publishing findings, then a bigger study later on, building on that foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he also mentions Larry Evans helping him, right? Invaluable aid, he says. I always think of chess as this solitary thing, but this shows even Fischer needed someone to bounce ideas off.
Right.
For sure. Even the best benefit from another perspective, right? Someone to poke holes in your thinking, help you get your ideas across.
Yeah, to refine the analysis, make it clear. It's like even when you're deep in your own head, that back and forth can really make a difference.
It makes a difference.
There's this quote that really stuck with me. He says, on the chessboard, lies and hypocrisy do not survive long. The creative combination lays bare the presumption of a lie.
Okay, unpack that one for us.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think he's getting at the honesty of the game, right? In life, you can fake things, fool yourself maybe, but on the board, the truth comes out eventually.
You mean like if your strategy is bad, it'll show? Exactly. That bad strategy, that's the lie. You think you're strong, but then, bam, the other player finds that creative combination, that sequence of moves, and your lie is exposed. So chess is about being accurate, seeing the truth of the position. You can't bluff your way to victory, not against the best.
So it's like a metaphor for any kind of intellectual pursuit, right?
Yeah,
If your ideas are shaky, sooner or later, someone's going to call you out on it.
definitely.
And speaking of the best, looking at the players he went up against, it's a who's who of chess legends. Larson, Petrosian, Smyslov, Tal, Spassky, Carries, the list goes on.
Seriously, each one with their own style, their own level of mastery. So it's not just about one kind of challenge, right? It's like navigating a whole landscape of different approaches, different ways of thinking.
And the openings he used, too.
Yeah.
You flip through the index to openings, and it's not just one or two. It's the Sicilian, but also Ruy Lopez, King's Indian, French defense.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to mix it up.
That's key, right? The opening sets the stage for the whole game, each one with its own strategic feel, its own possibilities. Fischer being comfortable with all these different openings, it shows he understood them deeply, He could adapt, play different styles right from the start.
And then you've got the game titles. They're not just boring labels. They're like little stories, Slaying the Dragon, Bear Hug, A Whopper, Four Queens, No Holds Barred, even stuff like Bad Judgment, Ghosts, Black Magic, The Missing Link, The Moral Victor, Squeeze Play, The Price of Incaution, and of course, When Champions Meet.
He knew how to hook you in, right? Those titles, they're like little hints at what's coming, the drama, the key moments. Slaying the Dragon makes you think of this fierce attack. Bear Hug sounds like a slow, crushing battle. They're like mini summaries of the games, making it more fun to learn.
Okay, let's zoom in on a few. Game 2, Fischer versus Larson, 58, Slaying the Dragon. What's the story behind this one?
All right, so Larson, he liked the dragon variation. It's part of the Sicilian. Fischer points out that in this variation, white often gets a good attack going, and sometimes even weaker players can win with it. The key here, though, was Larson messing up. He deviated from the theory on move 15, and Fischer calls it disastrous.
Okay, so for those who don't speak chess, the dragon, that's where black puts their bishop on g7 after g6, building up this defense around the king. Opening the h-file means clearing a path for your rook on that file, which can be a big threat to the king. And fianchettoed king, that's when the king's tucked behind that bishop on g7. It's safe unless you can break through.
You got it. So Larson makes this mistake, and Fischer's attack just becomes unstoppable. He opens that H-file, sacrifices a pawn, then the exchange. It's a classic example of punishing your opponent for a bad opening.
And he really breaks down how to attack the fianchettoed king and the dragon, right?
Yeah.
Like a step-by-step guide.
That's what makes it so instructive. He shows how he exploited that weakened pawn structure, piled on the threats, and basically demolished Larson's defenses.
Nice. Okay, game 3, same year, Fischer playing white against Petrosian, bear hug. Now, Petrosian was known for this super solid positional style. What does that even look like on the board?
Imagine a boa constrictor slowly squeezing. That's Petrosian. Fischer himself was amazed by how good Petrosian was at just improving his position, little by little, without making any big threats. It's all about those small advantages, waiting for the other guy to slip up.
So it's like a war of attrition.
Exactly. You got to be constantly alert, watching both sides of the board, even if nothing seems dangerous right away.
And Fischer admits he messed up here.
Yeah.
He says he panicked about a threat, and that weakened his pawn on b4. That's pretty humble for a guy like Fischer to admit he made a mistake.
It shows he's being honest with himself, with us, and he talks about how Petrosian's style, this cat and mouse game, could really mess with people's heads, you know? He'd just wait for them to crack under pressure.
It's psychological, too.
Totally. And there's this amazing moment in the endgame. Fischer missed a winning move, 57-8-7, and offered a draw. He didn't even realize he was losing, and Petrosian, being a true sportsman, accepted the draw.
Wow. Okay, game 4, Pilmic versus Fischer, 59, tact and tactics. Fischer mentions Argentina being a chess powerhouse back then.
Right. They had some serious talent, guys like Pelnick and Nojdorf, and Fischer did well in that tournament, tied for third.
And he points out this gaping hole on d5 as a problem for black. It's like he could see these weaknesses a mile away.
Oh, yeah. Controlling the center, especially squares like d5, that's crucial. A hole is basically a square that your pawns can't defend. Fischer was great at finding those and exploiting them.
And he mentions a sharp tactical line in the Sicilian, too. So even in these positional games, things can blow up quickly.
Absolutely. Tactics are always lurking, you know? One bad move and suddenly it's a whole different game.
Okay, last one. Game 17, Fischer versus Tal in 59, a very near miss. Now, Tal was known for his wild attacking style. This one sounds intense.
Oh, it was. Fischer talks about Tal's personality, this playful side, but you can tell from his notes this game was a nail-biter. He even admits he missed a win early on and let several draws slip away.
So even with a big advantage, things can go wrong.
It happens. One lapse in concentration, one miscalculation, and it's all gone. The game took a crazy turn after Tal played this unexpected move, 11 GIF5. Fischer didn't see its strength at first, and the commentator Panoff, he even said Fischer was playing in a Tal style during this game.
Wow, that's wild.
But Tal still managed to fight back, create his own threats, and later on Fischer says Tal stumbled into a bad defense. It just shows how close these games were, even at the highest level.
All right, so zooming out a bit, what are some of the big takeaways from my 60 memorable games? What can someone who really wants to understand chess, like yourself, learn from this book?
Well, first off, it's about that balance between strategy and tactics. You're always thinking long-term, but you got to be ready to pounce on those tactical chances when they pop up. That comes up over and over in Fischer's notes.
Like, you got to have a plan, but be ready to improvise when things get crazy.
Yeah, and then there's knowing the openings inside and out. It's not just memorizing moves. It's about understanding the ideas behind them. And you got to be careful about deviating from theory. If you do, you better know what you're doing.
Right, like you need a good reason.
Definitely. And then there's the mental games. Fischer talks about his own emotions during the games, how he sized up his opponents. You realize that chess is a battle of minds, too, not just moves.
Yeah, he's so open about that and about learning from mistakes. He doesn't try to hide his blunders. He analyzes them. You know, even the best mess up sometimes.
That's the key, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about learning and getting better. And Fischer really shows that process in this book. It's like a window into how chess understanding itself changed during this time.
So to wrap up, my 60 memorable games isn't just a bunch of chess scores. It's this really personal journey of learning and discovery. We get to see a grandmaster at work, his thought processes, his struggles, his triumphs. And it's not just about what moves were played, it's about why.
Absolutely. And even if you're not a chess expert, there's a lot to take away from this book. It's about that dedication to mastery, to understanding something deeply, the thinking skills Fischer used, the way he analyzed problems. That's valuable in any field, really.
It makes you think. What makes you really learn something? Is it a sudden realization, a big mistake you made? Just the sheer effort of trying to wrap your head around a tough concept? How can we apply that kind of thinking to our own lives?
And maybe it'll inspire you to check out one of these games yourself. Use Fisher's analysis as a guide. Do your own deep dive into chess.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And, taking that idea further, think about where in your own life, in your work, there might be some lies and hypocrisy hiding. Those things waiting to be exposed by a creative combination of new ideas, a fresh perspective. That's something to ponder.
It is, definitely. That idea, it goes way beyond the chessboard. It's about being honest with yourself, about always seeking the truth no matter what you're doing.
Truth on the chessboard and truth in life. I like that. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bobby Fischer's mind. Until next time, keep those brains working.
Keep them sharp.